Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Coffee Experts Club, we are here. Hey, good afternoon, boys. How's the day?
Fantastic.
Ben commented on it before we recorded, but I think it stands to note, Drew, the beard is looking strong today, bro. Good, strong beard today.
Thank you. It's gone through a mini season.
Yes. Somebody talked to me the other day about they saw the thumbnail we have for Coffee Experts Club, and that was when you were in like third wave heaven, and you had it like almost curled up on the sides and like your hair was just all sewn. I'm like, yeah, Drew goes through his phases.
Yeah.
I love it. So anyway, hey, today, Coffee Experts Club, and Ben, I don't want you to leave out. Like your beard always looks good. Always
Thank
beard
you.
strong. Yeah, for you. Yeah,
Thank you
I
for
don't want to. I don't want to
remembering.
hurt your feelings. And in fact, today might be a beard kind of day because our guest has a beard. So you can only be on Coffee Experts Club moving forward if you have a beard. Just kidding. Today, I'm pretty excited about our guest today. We've been talking to some really cool people lately who have independence, who are out there doing 1, 2, 3, 5 shops, like guys that are doing some really, really cool stuff. But today we're going to flip to the other side and ask ourselves the questions, okay, but what happens when you get bigger than that? And I think that the guy we're bringing back to the show today, we've had on before. I think it was one of our best episodes we've ever done, but he's VP for BlackRock Coffee. The guy is wicked smart. Really like the guy a lot. But we're going to talk today about thinking through, as he's had to do, what about way down the future and then scale it backward and talk about what things can we solve with things like technology and systemic problems that we can see are going to be a problem, and how can we nip it in the bud, which is a few good decisions. So with no further ado, let's bring forth Derek Tonn and let's talk to him today from BlackRock Coffee. Derek, welcome to the show, man. So good to have you.
Yeah, good to be back. I mean, we were talking beards. I think I've got a little more gray in my beard than Tommy, but yeah,
It's okay.
right.
I beat out everybody on the gray, so don't you worry. David, my kid, has just become a jerk and started calling me Santa Claus. So I think that, it's one of those things where the gray comes with age. I tell him that's just like a fine wine. I call it the Clooney effect. I'm just getting better looking with age. Anyway, man, so good to see you. And, I know you and I were chatting it up a little bit yesterday. Obviously, all three of us know you really well, and just kind of catch up some backstory. So Ben, Drew, and I all came out of Roasters Coffee. That was something that was near and dear to our heart. Grew with Wes Hayden Ben was there from the beginning, from one to 2 stores. And then Drew came alongside, I came alongside, around store like 4 or 5, and grew with Wes up to 15 in a roastery, and then helped him exit into BlackRock, which is where Derek really was pivotal. So Derek came alongside and became, took over CEO role at Roasters right before the transition. And, since then, there's all fun things that have happened with Roasters, and we don't need to go into that today. But I think that what I have been really excited about is just to see, ever since Derek was introduced to the organization, as I've watched him grow in his role at BlackRock, I've just been so impressed with the way, Derek, your mind works, my man. Just taking a breath, not getting caught up in the emotion of the moment and saying, yeah, but what's the better answer? Like, we could continue to try and chase down symptoms, you know what I mean? But like, how can we get to the root of what's causing the symptoms? Like, how can we fix this? And I was impressed with you at Roasters when you were CEO there. I was super impressed with the transition, of that whole process of transition. And then as you guys have gone on and done bigger and better things, I've just been impressed to watch you grow with them. So I would love to hear you talk today, just kind of about your role, maybe share with our listeners what you're doing now. And then we could talk about some of the things we had talked about, big systemic issues solved by a couple critical decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just that was a trip down memory lane. I love it. It seems like just yesterday, but we're going on almost 4 years now when kind of all that
Man.
was happening. But yeah, it was a wild jump into the coffee business. Definitely didn't go like I expected, but looking back, it worked out for everybody really well. So yeah, transitioning from my role at Roasters, helping with the acquisition, and then getting transitioned over to BlackRock, just really learned a lot. And where I really settled into BlackRock, at the time we were about 100-unit company growing. Right now, we're almost up to 140. Plan to
Wow.
add another 25, 30 by the end of the year, and then probably grow at about a 30 to 50 unit clip over the next few years. And who knows, the way these things usually work, as you start building and gaining steam, more people start piling in, joining the team,
Okay.
come in, and it can really start to speed up. And so as I kind of got my bearings at BlackRock, one of the things we really wanted to dive into was just data reporting. How do we get useful data and information out to our operations team? We're having a lot of problems with high labor costs, cost of goods. How do we schedule appropriately based on historical trends? And so really that's kind of where, this whole conversation around technology really started. We had a point of sale system that you guys are all familiar with it. It was a good system in a lot of ways. It was, it was easy to enter the orders. It was highly configurable, but really where it lacked was it couldn't talk to other systems very well.
Yeah.
Well, at an enterprise level, we start talking about, hey, we need an app. We need a better loyalty program so we can segment, target our customers. We need our third-party orders coming into the point of sale so that they're flowing to the KDS properly, so we can capture those in reporting. We need our sales data flowing over to our time and attendance tools so that we can have like real-time sales and labors, all these things. And inventory management, that's another big one we're looking at. But really all came back to system integrations. How do we get data from our point of sale, which is really the heartbeat of any operation, especially like this? How do we get that information flowing out to other systems so that we could take advantage of it? What we decided to do was just interview some different companies and say, hey, what would serve us best? What's going to help us build that foundation of technology so that we can really start to supercharge our growth? We ended up going with a company named Revel Systems, which is an iPad-based, cloud-based point-of-sale system, very similar in terms of just the look and feel of the system we moved from, but its power was that it had an open API, and basically that's the language in which like systems talk to each other, and they had a ton of existing integrations with systems that we were already using. So for example, we use 7Shifts for our time and attendance. They had an existing integration. So the minute we turned on Revel, data was flowing to 7Shifts automatically. So our teams were getting that real-time information right off the bat. We decided to go with Patronix. If you guys ever heard of them, they're doing all of our online ordering. They built us a website. They built us an app. They've got this thing called marketplace managers. So like DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, they'll flow into Patronix and then into point of sale. And so now the way we have it set up is all of our orders are flowing through the point of sale. We're able to use the same menu, so our in-store menu that pushes out to all those platforms. So we can do price updates. We push new products. It's consistent. And you guys are familiar with, the KDSs and everything. Those orders are flowing through all to one spot now. So it's just all one nice, tight, cohesive system.
Awesome.
And then on the back end, all the reporting is in one spot. So, a caramel,
good.
our number one seller is a caramel blondie in every system. We would have it named 3 different things in other systems.
Right.
Like, how many blondies are we selling? Oh, well, the blondie here is actually named that, and over here it's named that. Ben, I know you probably more familiar with all that.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of just the long story of how we got to this massive technology upgrade. And we actually just this week launched our loyalty and app program, but it was like a 9-month journey of
Wow.
you got to get the point of sale rolled out, which took 4 or 5 months. So that's like getting all the hardware swapped out, get the new menu. We ended up bringing in some new team members, brought in a couple consultants to help us with that. And then we had to build the new loyalty program while all at the same time keeping the existing, program and system going so that customers were still being taken care of.
Yep.
And then we just finally were able to flip the switch last Tuesday. So far it's been a big success. We had like over 12,000 people download the app already. A lot
Wow.
of online orders coming in on the app. It's been really cool to see. And so, yeah.
That's
Great.
awesome.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
Dude, you just
Lot.
entered Ben's world. I think, we deal with third-party integrations all the time on the Collab side of things, but not a lot with coffee, right? Because most places they're going to commit to something like Toast. They're going to commit something like Square. They're going to commit something like Touchpoint, whatever it is they choose. But then it's like, oh, I've solved it. But like Derek was saying, not always, not really. And third-party integrations is big. So Ben, I'll let you carry it away with some of your questions.
Yeah, I guess my biggest question was how painful was it trying to swap everything? Because I remember swapping hardware for like 15 locations. I can't imagine 100 plus locations. Were you having to like put together teams in regions to go and do like even just hardware swaps, or how did you guys work through all that?
Yeah, so one of the big reasons we ended up going with Revel Systems was, they're not the biggest company out there. We're a fairly big deployment for them. We looked at the Toast, we looked at like Par Technology, we looked at a company called Xenial, who serves Dutch Bros and Burger Kings and McDonald's. And the nice thing about Revel Systems was we were a big enough client to them that we mattered. Our voice mattered. We weren't just going to be like a small fish in a big pond. But they basically took over the deployment side for us as far as project management. They had a team of lawyers that would come in, and it was just like teams that would drop into the market and then just systematically go in. We'd shut down like an hour or two early every night for the locations that we were going to flip over. And, they knocked it out within anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, just depending on the different
Wow.
requirements of the location. But there was absolutely no way that our team internally could have handled that. It would have been impossible. It would have just drug out so long. And so,
Dude, mad props to those guys. That's a huge project, and what a generous thing to say. Because and I know that obviously BlackRock's a big fish, but like there's a lot of those guys that's like, hey, we go this far, no more. So how cool that they're like, no, we'll project manage this whole thing, and we'll handle all of the implementation. That's pretty badass.
yeah, in a lot of ways, they kind of drug us through the process, and they were like, leading the way because we're a small team internally as far as on the home office side. We don't really have a formal department necessarily. And so, yeah, it was huge. We definitely could not have done it without them.
That's awesome.
Third-party APIs, man. Let's talk about that a little bit. So I think, Ben, that's something that we deal with CRMs. That's something that we deal with like front-end website buildings. Like we do a lot of online sales. We deal with a lot of online customers, so that's always something we're thinking about is how many zaps are we going to have to set up? Right? Like, because this thing doesn't play nice. So what third-party middleman are we going to have to use to zap information back and forth? It's so cool when there's an API that you can just plug in, that they've thought about this and the integration is natural. Let's talk about that for a minute. I think so cool. Like Drew and I even talking about like down in De Los Mice, obviously a much simpler system down in Belize, right? Because they don't have a lot of, Derek, I don't know if you know this or not, no POS system works with a credit card processor in the country of Belize. So everything will organize it for you, but they won't process the transaction. So you have to key in a different transaction come back because Bank of Belize wants to own all credit card transactions that happen in their country. It's just a archaic system. They're like PayPal hasn't broken in. Nobody's broken in. So it's just crazy to live in something so far behind. We've had to really think about integrations and work with some different things there of how can we transport information? How can we translate information? How can we get this over to here? Maybe Ben, Drew, do you guys have any questions around like some of the information that's tallying back and forth? Because I know like Drew, we've seen Toast integrate pretty well with 7 Shifts, right? Where there's some natural integrations in between them and see some real-time information, but maybe some questions for Derek around that.
Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
I'm curious about the implementation across, so many stores and managing the data for, you mentioned scheduling processes. It's difficult at a small scale, but at so many stores, using that data to flow back and forth, is it very user friendly for the managers to access, or is it more, you guys have to work from the top down and kind of implement certain structures for people to work from, or how does that process work for reporting?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like labor scheduling and setting targets, yeah, it's been a couple year process. So first we kind of had to just, me and my team kind of had to jump in and work with what we had. And so we were pulling a lot of reports from our old point of sale and basically just laying out by market, by location, like, hey, here's your last 2 weeks of sales by day part, by hour, right? And then we did a lot of work in converting that to, hey, how many hours should you have? Because we operate in 7 different states with different wage rates, et cetera. And so you kind of have to normalize that across all your locations, all your markets. So what we were able to do was just kind of, lay out based on like a 2-year trend to say, hey, at this time of the year, for the next 2 weeks, this is what your sales are probably going to be for the week. And based on that, if you want to hit this, X labor target, you need to schedule 300 hours. And then from there, they could go in and then like plug people in shifts. And that was kind of like phase one. And then as we started now building, our new tech stack, having the sales data flowing into 7 shifts, they do all that for you. So one of the benefits we've seen is that, the sales data coming into 7 shifts, it's doing all those calculations for you, and it'll actually lay out those like optimal schedules for you. And then it's just up to the managers to kind of plug the names in. And so we're still in that process of, because it takes like 8 to 10 weeks of data coming in to build up historical trend. But for what the managers will have in 7 shifts, it's a very like user-friendly interface. They can just kind of, their teams there, they can drag and drop the names into the buckets. And then the program itself will kind of tell you, hey, for Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m., you need 3 people, and then you plug them in, and then it'll just kind of lay out that, obviously with coffee, it's going to be, or, you bring in your opener at 5 a.m., you add a couple team members, and then you're a full force in that, 8 to 12 p.m. time frame, and then you're scaling down. And that's pretty much how it is at every location. Some are a little different based on, Texas going a little later in the day, wake up a little later. I don't know what it is, but PNW is different versus Colorado or Arizona. But all that being said, to tie it together, having the data automatically flow in and then let the systems like do what they're designed to do, a huge win.
How well does with Revel and all of your locations, POSs, and all the sales that they're reporting, how well does that all roll up into, say, an HQ account? Like, do you obviously, thinking of obviously the older POS, you're using, you had at least an HQ account basically where you could roll up and you could see all of the locations. I imagine that's a lot of lines of data of sales, daily sales data to go through with 100+ locations. So are you doing anything to try and I guess get that data more concise, like bring it down a little bit, or are you just having to go in and look at daily sales and then just scrolling through 100+ locations going, wow, this is a lot of sales for the day?
Yeah, it's, the first big thing in terms of the new point of sale was just what's our structure look like. We ended up going with like a market-based, just geography-based approach. And so to your point, Ben, we have everything at the company level, but we have an Arizona, division, and then all the stores below there. and then Colorado, Idaho, on and on. And so when we look at the reporting and link back in, you can see the company in total, and there's like a view for that. And then if you need to drill into like Arizona in particular, you can drill into that, and then each location. I would say, Revel itself has some fairly good reporting, but what we're doing is we actually pump all that data. We actually had a data lake built. And so with our integrations, we're just pumping that data into our data lake. And then we present it within a product called Power BI, with pretty standard like visualization tool that companies use. It would be like a Tableau, something like that. But it's just, you pop it up on your web, you have all your custom filters in there. And so, from an executive team down, the executive team wants to see the company, but they also want to be able to see like, hey, what's each market doing, and then be able to draw out that information and slice it and dice it. It makes it really nice. And then it's all set up to go down to the individual. Our structure would be like an area manager has, maybe 10 to 15 locations. An area manager wants to see their portfolio. Under area manager, we have what are called multi-store lead, which has like 2 to 4 locations. They want to see theirs. And then it'll go, obviously you can take it all the way down to the individual location. So it's set up really nicely that it could serve everybody's, need for what level of the company they're looking at.
Love that. It's so cool.
I think it's so cool too. Like, and obviously you can begin to see it build momentum, especially when you're talking about supply chain. Supply chain is something that we talk about a lot, something, especially down in Belize, that we deal with a lot of trying to get things down there, then get things to different locations. We're talking about multiple touch points, but you guys are like on steroids. Obviously you have that many regions, but how cool it is to be able to have data that rolls up to say, hey, we're selling the crap out of this in this particular region. Make sure supply chain doesn't break on that, because it may not be in the Pacific Northwest the same thing that's going off down in Arizona. Is that what you find? Like in different regions, there are different things that go off harder, and then that you have to just make sure your supply chain is not going to break, because maybe that might not be an entire company-wide growth pattern, but we need to make sure Arizona doesn't run out of mango or whatever it is that just goes off in Arizona. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see how the different markets respond to different products. One big one off the bat is, our energy blend, we call it fuel energy.
Yeah.
But people in Texas, they're not as familiar with those kind of energy drinks, like the flavored energy drinks. Our product mix there is much lower than, say, Pacific Northwest or Arizona or California. California, they love energy drinks there. Like, it sells so well. And so what we have to keep track of is, like you said, is one, there's the factor of, hey, our energy drink, that's, it's a fairly affordable product to make. You make a nice margin off it. So it's like, we want to promote that more from a marketing standpoint to people in Texas, for example, who might not be familiar with it. But on the flip side, you want to make sure that your distributors, the people that are making the product for you, are up to speed on like what your demand is, because you don't want to run out. Obviously, you want to make sure that it's in consistent supply. And then we use Cisco as our main distributor, so making sure it's in the warehouse ready to ship out when they need it.
I know you were talking about working the inventory side of your new POS. The same with reporting, can you run that inventory system all the way from the individual store all the way up company wide? Like if you wanted to, you could run inventory for Arizona, for example. So you could contact Cisco Arizona and say, hey, here's what we're doing, on a monthly basis for our inventory, just to give them heads up. Does it go that far?
It will. So inventory management is the next big project to plug in. So we did point of sale. We got our initial reporting going, sales data flowing over into time and ends. That was kind of phase one. Phase two is what we kicked off this last week with loyalty app, online ordering, the third-party integration. And then after we let the dust settle on that, probably give it, probably 6 to 8 weeks to kind of settle in. And then the inventory management solution we're bringing in is an integration partner with Revel. And so what we do there is like we'll basically build out all the recipe costing for our whole menu. We'll tie it into Cisco, so people will be able to place orders from their point of sale. They'll be able to get like information on, hey, here's your recommended order based on what you're selling. And then the store teams will do weekly inventory count. And then those inventory counts will compare those counts to what was ordered and delivered versus what was sold from the point of sale. And then we'll be able to very quickly pinpoint any kind of variances. But then also it'll, all that data will support, usage, ordering, what we need to do to what you've been at a location level, at a region level for the whole company. And so we'll be able to really pinpoint, and then from there be able to really attack our big opportunities for cost saving. Is it a waste issue? Do we need to train better? Do we need to negotiate, better with our vendors, or, switch certain things out, go to some, different product completely? But that's the next thing we're really looking forward to. We should have that by the end of the year, or, probably fully implemented by Q1 of next year. But
just that piece of suggested ordering amounts is, I mean, that alone for, I'm sure anybody who's running a small set of locations, 1 to 5 locations, like, you've got that one manager who always orders just way too much. It's like, hey, dude, it's January. Why do we need 12 cases of strawberry smoothie mix? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's amazing. So then, Derek, do you, like, when it comes to, like, all those things all shake out to your vendors, right? And push out to vendors, you guys, sounds like you have a great network of how that all works. Do you guys, even all the way down to beans, do you guys use Cisco, or do you guys actually have some things that you centrally hub and distribute yourself? Or have you just found that, like, it's just better to commit to a vendor and let them carry it and maybe pay a little bit extra cost in them doing it for the sake of them owning it?
so beans in particular, we self-roast. So we've got a roasting facility in Vancouver, Washington, Arizona. With growth, we're looking at maybe adding another one, possibly in the Texas region, but that's all self-fulfilled. And so for the locations that are around the roastery, those just go out and get delivered, by an team. For the ones that aren't, we're shipping them. It works fairly well, but I think, as you grow, you have to kind of figure that out even more. And then in terms of, like, the rest of our products, just being able to get most things through Cisco, just from a logistics standpoint, just making sure things are delivered.
Hey, sounds like they even, like your energy drink, obviously they're storing that for you. That's not something that anybody else can order on Cisco. So it's cool that you guys have a working relationship with them, that they're able to take on some of those other pieces, so that all you're distributing really is what you're manufacturing yourself, which is your beans, right? Sounds like.
Yeah. And we've got a little supply chain team that really dives into that, and
Cool.
we're constantly looking at the stock level, all that stuff. But yeah, we're shoveling them over a lot of data so they can kind of pour over it and see.
Derek, obviously we listen to a lot of coffee shops here. We have a lot of people listening to us that are small, like 1, 2, 3, 5, less than 10 for sure. Yeah, I mean, like that's, I'd say, majority of who's listening to Coffee Experts Club. Thinking ahead of the curve, like thinking from the end to the beginning. If you were to give somebody advice, hey, these are the technology pieces I would consider thinking through at first. Here are the pieces that I would think about. We talked about something as simple as naming conventions. I remember what a pain in the ass that was for Ben back in naming convention days. What did we call that on Road 68? Like, it just didn't line up right, and having to realign everything so everything rolls back up into the right reporting. What would you suggest are some of the top 1, 2, 3 suggestions for somebody that's growing, somebody that's thinking about changes, things that are just like, hey, you should really think about this, because down the road, you're not going to want to change that a bunch of times?
Yeah, that's a great question. From my experience, what I've learned the most is just make sure you're picking a good technology partner. I really caution people from going with an all-in-one solution, somebody who says they're going to deliver the world on everything. We can do inventory management, we can do scheduling, we can do loyalty. It's so hard to be good at all of those components. So you're better off picking a partner who realizes that I can't be great at everything. I'm going to be great at point of sale, and I'm going to have integration partners that you can easily tie into, because we have no idea what 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road is going to look like. There's technology that's coming that we're not even considering right now. And so if you put yourself into and you build your foundation on a point of sale that wants to own everything, I think that might not work out well for you if your plan is to scale. And then was really thinking through your menu structure, keeping it simple, consistent, naming, ice drinks versus hot drinks versus blended drinks, just making sure there's just some kind of standard that you're adhering to. Yeah, just kind of thinking through it. It's usually all very simple, but usually what happens is, people come and go, they shift roles, and then point of sale or whatever get passed along around a few times, and that person is going to have a different vision of it. And maybe you have modifiers that were set up that should really be items, or items that are really modifiers. And then next thing you know, as you're growing, you're trying to report and make sense of all this. And one day you find yourself just needing a whole new point of sale because it's easier to start from.
All of us are laughing here, just thinking about items versus modifiers and how many mistakes we've seen made, how many mistakes we've made internally. I think it's so funny how that works. That's great. Derek, man, such a privilege. I know that we talked about yesterday, brothers in arms, man. You go through difficult things together and it just makes you feel just like fast, long friends. And we're just grateful for your friendship. So excited just to see your acceleration through BlackRock and just how much you've helped them, how much they've helped you. And just know that we're very grateful for you and just love you guys over there at BlackRock here on Coffee Experts Club.
Yeah. Same back to you guys. Really excited to follow you and see everything you guys are doing. So reach out anytime. But yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me again.
Awesome. Yeah. Listeners, thanks for joining us today on Coffee Experts Club. We'll definitely see you guys next week with some more great guests. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.